in the banking?
2.5 years.
Of hard work. We appreciate it. So Return of the Kings. And I have some favorites. I was looking through that. I was hoping you would read, but I'm sure you're going to hit on them. If not, we can always raise our hand and answer.
Okay.
So Laini Mataka, she writes, she teaches, and I read right from the book in Washington, D.C. Her publications include Black Rhythms for Fancy Dancers, Never as Strangers, Restoring the Queen, Being a Strong Black Woman Can Get You Killed, and The Prince of Cocoa. So with no further ado, exciting, you lucky to be here to hear our sister tonight.
Sankofa is always good to me.
Yeah.
Always good to me. And has been good to me for years. Until I had to remind you, you didn't have any in my book.
All right now. How do you say your name?
How do I say my name?
Sincerely.
This I had not seen.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Okay. Some of our folks are very generous with our love, Black folks, in that they always want to love somebody who ain't Black, love somebody who's outside of our culture, okay, and want to do that before they give it to us. This is called already carrying the weight. We're already carrying the weight of ourselves. Freeloaders need not apply. Those who've never supported us want to use our bodies to get a foot up on a ladder that leads to heaven for everybody but us. We're already carrying the weight of ourselves, and everybody wants us to march for them when they never even step up for us. Speak out for them when they don't even part their lips to speak to us. Show them the way when they never make room for us. We're already carrying the weight of ourselves, and yet others of our kind try to stretch the priceless love we can just barely give each other into something that we must use to save others who yearn to be part of a nation that can't stand being a part of us. East of the river, all confined within the same rubber band, like numbers to be played with by poverty pimp actuaries. They are clients for glassine bags of insanity, flunkies for serial mayoral candidates, all bunched up together on a dime's worth of square feet. They have yet to discover the roundness of the earth for their own neighborhood, while all around evidence of a coup slowly takes the form of Starbucks, juice bars, bike lanes, and homeland security. That lovely little speck along the Anacostia River is about to be invaded by Euros, give or take a brown or yellow alternate, and all the music that ever chronicled the struggles that emerged from all the people who used to love, hate, cry, pray, chill, and strut along the Anacostia will be taken off the airways to be replaced by vegan sounds of smooth jazz and drum machines that don't know how to shake a tail feather. A lot of talk about Black men, always a lot of talk about Black men. This book is a deviation, intentionally. The title, The Return of the Kings, was my personal commitment to put Black men on their thrones, to put the crowns back on their heads, and to go ahead and push them towards sovereignty. This is called something better than a baby daddy. Even though things were wobbly between him and the mother, he stayed, laid down, and allowed her 3 children to be transplanted into his heart. He couldn't have loved them more if they had germinated from his own seeds. His fathering was envied by children and adults alike. Older folks put in dibs to be his in the next life, and youngins cling to him like lint, The transplanted were aware of their real father, but he was the only real father that they were interested in knowing. From daycare to college, he raised them, split his essence equally, and spoon-fed them right up to adulthood. They had a love affair, a glowing entity that couldn't be dampened by separation, distance, or maternal haranguing. When they left, it was only natural for him to leave too. What manner of bird stands languishing on the same tree branch long after its chicks have flown away? A glittering generality. To the young black and male in America is to be disparaged daily in the tabloids, held up to ridicule by inadequate schools, and damned to hell by hypocrites in every election. And yet, it's also being envied by multitudes of global others, constantly watched and copied to a T, lyrically emulated by those who can't even speak English, admired for the way you wear your poverty. To be black, male, and young in America is to be restricted to mediocrity. It's a wanted poster with your picture on it before you even take your first baby picture. It's being hanged out to dry before you even get wet. And still, it's the most coveted identity of the world's youth. It's rising above marginalization without noticing you were even being slighted. It's being oblivious to those who see you enjoying your own heartbeat so much they either want to control the beat or stop your heart. To be male, young, and black in America marks you as someone to be controlled or discouraged. It's always getting the attention, but none of the love. It's forever being profiled, but never accurately. And yet, it's being so full of fire that moths swarm around you, not caring if they live or die in your flames. It's leading the nation's trends without even trying, twisting the shape of the society without daring or caring. It's strutting your second-class citizenship so tough that some want to steal it, and though others be glad just to copy it, no one can handle it except you. I wasn't going to, but circumstances mean that I have to. The Knights of Asada. To the knights in black-skinned armor who saw our damsel bound on the road to imprisonment for murdering a cop she never killed. To the knights who put their heads together, welded their wills, backed their fists, and checked their weapons. To the knights who planned the unbelievable and then did it. By ambushing the convoy, taking our damsel to her final place of unrest. To the knights who lanced her enemies into the medieval brutality they had planned for her. Then whisked her away to the Mikasa e Sukasa of a tiny little country that took pride in saying no to America. Especially when the subject was extradition. Right. To the knights who survived the rescue, now grateful for obscurity, hungry for parole, still living below the radar. If I knew who you were, I would send you a check, along with a request from the black community that you pardon us for still having to praise you in anonymity after all these years. Frankie. Yo, Frankie. Watergate. I guess right now you wish you just never noticed something funny was going on. I bet you wish you had ignored that faint light under the door and gone on with your rounds. I bet you wish you had backed out of that door on tiptoes, faked an asthma attack, and gone on home. I bet you wish you had understood the magnitude of making that call that rearranged the lives of everyone involved, that call that feathered the caps of Woodward and Bernstein and brought the government to a screeching halt, that fatal call that brought so many things to an end, including your future. I bet you wish you could have made an anonymous tip to the authorities and went on with your minimum wage life. I bet it made you sick to your stomach to see the real criminals getting book deals, television appearances, and job offers while you remained a broke-ass hero. I bet you wish you had been raised to understand that honesty is not always the best policy. I bet you wish you had just shut up, opened up Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, picked a chapter, and climbed right into it, instead of being cursed and publicly mocked for being the only one who didn't lie and the only one who really got punished. Years later, they claim you died of a brain tumor. If that's true, I bet it had Watergate written all over it. So many people have been leaving here. And we don't know what happens when they leave. We have some beliefs, we have some ideas, but we don't really know. And this is called the gathering. We will call it the gathering of lost souls. The harvesting of spirits that couldn't bear to go forward. We will name them by their deeds and call them into play with sun-tightened drums. Bells will ring and morning will begin the soft sway of obedient bodies, come to send their lovers away, nudge their friends towards the light, release the hands of childhood playmates, point out the way to those who keep revolving through ethereal doors. We will call this the gathering of lost souls, a grand hoedown for the beautiful ones who got lost in the mist. Prayers of finality will gush unabashedly from our lips as the lost surrender to being found one by one. They will vaporize, later to materialize, a jewel in the forehead of the great I am. Failed alchemy. They peeled us like grapes, slipped into our skins, then ran off to howl at the moon. When nothing happened, they ranged their way back to us and stomped the remaining great in us into wine, which they drank and drank down to its melanin-streaked dregs, and still nothing happened. The woman in apartment B, she's being held captive by something that found an open wound in her soul. Her daily attempts to fend off possession pierce reality with screams, grunts, and curses. Banging and screeching are all she can think of to draw our attention. She's the unwilling star of a disappearing act, dropping pounds like dandruff. She tears at reality with her fingernails, determined to create a hole big enough to kick a demon out of or yank a god into. Doc Ben. What can we say about Ethiopia's baby and America's maybe, except that he was Africa's finest from his first breath to his last. The sum total of his years was spent reinserting Black world into global history. From the moment he parted the Red Sea and chased Liz Taylor out of Egypt, the gauntlet was thrown. He used the clay made of truth to restore the mutilated noses and mouths in our unparalleled edifices and time-resistant monuments. All the grave robbers were put on notice that their twisted versions of Egyptology would no longer hold weight in our ideologies. He became our laser beam of correctness, the intellectual cartographer voted most likely to map out our tomorrows. Like the missing pages of history, we became his witnesses, the flesh and blood reasons. His names never appeared on the dotted line of falsified scholarship. A staunch activator of stolen memories, he took on the challenge of matching our cultural DNA with that of the ancient ones. He was our trip to Kemet until we were blessed enough to go there and see for ourselves the power of our Black hands. He made Harlem his Egypt, Mildred his queen, and Brooklyn his kingdom, with a righteous swag and a spirit of much-needed justice. He killed Tarzan, banned Jane to the caves of Europe, and put Boy on display in the Cairo Museum. He was our great defender who didn't hesitate to go toe-to-toe with the burners of libraries. And in his haste to unearth and unveil Black history, not once did he ever pimp the pharaohs or exploit the Holy of Holies in search of notoriety. It was the Ogun in him that made him go tell it on the mountain. No, Jesus wasn't born on no Christmas Day. Indeed, there was the Shango in him that forced him to set fire to the cultivators and leave them smoldering in their Disneyland temples with both hands tied behind his back. He took on the 2 for $1 tricks like Gates and Lefkowitz and left them battling in the shadows of their own ineptness. He nursed our chronicles with his own blood and never allowed the citadels of our collective magnificence to be usurped by the ugly ones. A master of prestidigitation. He not only turned us into scholars, but carved a space for us among the ivory towered and the highly degreed. And because he held himself to the same standards he set for us, no strands of blonde hair ever littered his marital bed. He crossed the desert sands of academia without sacrificing grip for publication or testicles for tenure. Ever loving, ever giving. He reminded us often as possible that between black women's legs lay heaven, not a place to shop and cop. He was our Baba, supreme, like a mighty Baba tree. We now sit around his memory, customizing the visions that will one day set us free. I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad.
Hey, Mataka, I met you 1985. You were opening for Doc Ben at Ujimashule. You changed my life. You know that. You know that. Changed my life.
Kidway Bay did one of his notorious programs in Baltimore. I was on the program, Doc Ben was on the program. When Doc Ben came out, youngest was out there smoking, weed, talking, and all of that. I'm sorry, I had never done this before. I marched my little self out on that stage. I'm like, shut up! You don't know what's up here? Shut up! My mother saw me for the first time. The first time she came to read me, so she could hear me say that. I'm like,
Wow.
You know, people gonna kill you. Yeah. Thank you. More enduring than dreams. He hates that job. Been going there 5 days a week, 15 years, and he feels like a squeezed out tube of toothpaste. It ain't like he's making any real money, but he's got real benefits and 4 real children. So every now and then, one of his old dreams gets up, shakes itself off, and tries to make a comeback, but fades when asked about benefits. He dreads going to work every day. Been going there 5 days a week for 15 years. Whatever youth he has left, just wants to sneak out the back door, turn towards the sun, and sprint towards happiness. With ease, he sees himself traveling across the country, picking up work, laying down women, and never looking back. But he's got 4 children. And the hole that his absentee daddy left in him acts like a binding spell that won't allow him to do what his daddy did. So he slams the door on that temptation, makes sure his uniform is clean for the next day, hugs his badass children goodnight, climbs into bed, and sleeps with the serenity of a man who's doing the right thing. Her type. She was his son's mother. And no one was allowed to spit on her name. Not his mother, who warned him in perpetuity about her type. Not his father, who claimed to know all about her type. Not his sister, who never met her but was eager to speculate about her type. Not his own boy, his homeboy, whose butt he had to kick for degrading her type. He already knew what type she was. She was his son's mother. That kind of woman. I come from a long, long line of women wanted for the wrong reasons. Instead of dogs, we were given fear to cut our teeth on. Something was always lurking. There were always reasons not to be as pretty as we really were. Always restraints on how much of our womanhood we were allowed to act out. To saunter along was to be lascivious. To be caught enjoying your womanhood was downright nasty. to come from a long line of women for being inaccessible. Our heads and our breasts sit up too straight. We never tease and only appease when it pleases our soul. Men visit our dreams until they become too heavy for the seams to hold. They go from perplexed to vexed and back again when they can't find our control buttons. They freak out and accuse us of pissing in their tea. I come from a long line of women wanted for their sultriness. Everything we do naturally is considered simple. The way we half smile or make a man's eyes bulge out of his head is now considered a crime. When fabric flows over our behinds like water, it's a felony. Every time we stare a man down to fuck or fight, a warrant is issued for our immediate arrest. I come from a long line of women that's getting shorter every day. When monsters find you desirable, get over here, gal. Spread them legs. You heard what I said. Better not talk, moan, cry, or make a sound. Just get them legs wide and clap that mind shut. Take this serrated pecker without moisture or complaint. Spread them wider, and you better not touch me. Don't just lay there. Move that big ass. Don't talk, don't groan, don't scream, don't make a sound. Just open your legs, you stinking black bitch. I ought to beat you to death for making me do this.
Yes, sister. God damn it.
There are people who act like they don't want to be in our club anymore. And my invitation is, if you want to go, go.
Go.
We are not going to keep asking you to carry yourself like you're on the outside. If you don't want to address the white knife sticking out of your black back, then don't. We are not going to keep looking for ways to convince you to accept your nappy beauty. If you want to be a raggedy reflection of Obey ugliness, then go ahead. We are not going to beg you to use your skills to free your mama or your intelligence to save your children. If your toxic needs are more important than their perpetual well-being, then do you. We are not going to carry you, take over your duties, or compensate for your lack of sacrifice. If white nationalism is the movie that you want most to star in, then carry on. We are not going to save you a seat at the round table or hold on to your blackness until you get back. If you want to be African one day and American the next, then handle your business. We are not going to sympathize, empathize, harmonize, or be compromised by your menticide. If you'd rather be tolerated, then vindicated, and elevated, just keep on keeping on. We are not going to allow you to be racially fluid with one foot in their camp and one foot in ours. If your Africanity can be shed as easy as dirty underwear, then have at it. We are not going to consider you a part of our critical mass while you wait to see which way the wind blows. If you choose not to hear the righteous appeals of their own ancestors, then stay deaf. We are not going to block your exit, plead our case, appeal to your higher self, throw you a life preserver, or fight to win you back. If you want to go, know that you are not a refugee, and you ain't going to get no right to return. This is for some brothers. Called Stay Good. Don't go back to the jungle. Don't retreat, beat, when there's still so much vibrancy in your roar. Your goodness is not a curse, not something to bury in the backyard with salt. Don't make your higher self go into retirement because a couple of unevolved sisters hijack your generosity and left you beating your head against the wall. What did you lose that was worth keeping? Don't stop handing out particles of yourself. Don't stop being what so many of us wish we had. Forget the sisters. Remember the lesson. Let discernment be your guide and stay. Don't go back to the jungle. Don't retreat. Beat when there is still so much vibrancy to your roar.
Yeah.
Call myself marking all these out. You see how well I did. All right. Yeah, I'm marking, but then I read something else. I'm like, oh, read this. Ha! Guilty. All a black man has to do to be charged with the attempted murder of a white girl is to stop and look at her, which will leave her breathless and him guilty as charged.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Just real simple. Straight shot. You know that.
I don't call them boys, okay? This is the Scottsboro scapegoats.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They were tried for not wanting the white woman on the train, for not salivating at the thought of sinking into that forbidden white flesh, for not giving crackers something to point at and say, see? They were tried for being close enough to breathe the same air as the white girls, for chasing the other crackers off the train so they could have the white girls all to themselves, only none of them wanted them. They were tried just as much for not wanting the white women as if they had. After all, who were they not to fit the description? Who were they not to be the usual suspects? Even when one white girl said it didn't happen, it didn't matter. Those rednecks didn't need her consent. Her truth was as irrelevant as she was. Once the rednecks got it in their minds, it stayed there because they needed it to be there. They and their forefathers had raped so many black women, they needed to believe that all black men wanted to do the same thing to theirs. And knowing that a bunch of raggedy black males had access to two white females and didn't want them, forced them into a cognitive dissonance that the brothers themselves were made to pay hell for. Their dogged belief in black men as demons blew up right in their faces. So they held them behind bars for years, tried them repeatedly, committed double jeopardy 3 or 4 times. They took their gangrenous teeth and bit whole chunks of their lives out, all because they needed a reason to justify punishing the black teens who beat the crackers off of their train and smudged the purity of white women by finding them undesirable. I'm looking for my favorite person's poem. It would be smart to go to the table of contents. Yeah, that would be. Oh. This is why. Okay. Sometimes we're wrong. Kenny, you're gonna like this.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes we profile a youngin'. Yeah, we do. Mentally, we handcuff him without misperceptions. Beat his actions 7 test moves ahead. We split him in half, offering one half to iron bars and the other to premature death. We think we know him, but sometimes that specimen that we're ready to relegate the loser finds himself packed with enough might to push back the night that threatens to eclipse his dawn. Sometimes we miss the hints of gold glistening through the rock. America has robbed us of the freshness required to look at our youth through any eyes but theirs. And sometimes when we think we're looking at desolation, we're really attesting to a new strain of hope, a new vein of gold glistening through the crack.
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay, here's the poem. Okay, let me see if I can do this. This is all for Dr. Francis Cresswell.
All right. You got it. You got it.
I just can't tell you how I feel. Well, I just can't find the words to share a bond like ours. Takes more than nouns and verbs. I see racist things. I hear ancestors singing. I think that you have changed me. 'Cause since I met you, I can't forget you. So what am I supposed to do? Let her name be our battle cry. When Yamoja called, she said yes and gathered around us like a force field, impervious to mendacity and immune to enslavement, no matter how diamond studded the chains. When Kuchitaka Leah called, she centered her mind, balled up her fists, and smashed the lies that called us out of our sun-filled names and negated our historical significance. When Ujima called, she rolled up her sleeves and displayed a half-century worth of examples of how to be caretakers of our people, while taking responsibility for the many errors that we might make along the way. When Uchama called, she often dug deeply into her own pockets, put her money where her mouth was. This she backed up with hours and hours of sacred talks that were secretly known to raise the dead. When the NIA called, she pioneered her way through white supremacy, taking a machete to the red, white, and blue roots that ensnared our feet. She also slashed away at the overhanging growths that blocked out the sun of our traditional greatness. When Kuumba called, she used every aspect of her ashe to eliminate our ignorance with technicolor glimpses of what freedom could really look like. If we would stop being afraid of the people who are genetically afraid of us. When Imani called, she bequeathed her last breath to us, so she could take her place at the round table of Genoich, whose sole purpose is to arm us, encourage us, lead us, and join us in the fight to annihilate the Negro and return control of our higher selves to our blacker selves. Confused cries around me ask, where are we going to find another Dr. Wilson? And I say, why are you looking for another one when you haven't adequately honored this one? Her body may be gone, but her footprints are still here, and you can follow them if you dare. Don't stain her legacy with tears unless you're prepared to spend the rest of your years tearing down white supremacy, brick by filthy brick. Not just with your mouth, but with your actions. Not just in your house, but everywhere you go. Not just one Thursday a month, but every day, all day long. Don't let her presence, your presence here, be mistaken for a decoration, but a clear indication that you are signing your name on the dotted line of liberation. Don't be mourners, be transformers. Wear the crown that she fought so valiantly to regain for us. Use the insights she left in the ISIS papers for you. Occupy the space she used her every breath to clear for you. Use the weapons her brilliance designed for you. Take your declarations of love for her and carve out a reality where our children can be wet nursed by the truth. A reality we can fine tune our minds till our bodies can walk through fire. A reality where certainly replaces insecurity, study eclipses opinions, and we represents all the eyes. Don't relegate our Queen Mother to just being another face in the place or a February blast from our truncated African past. Sweep the white leftovers out of your mind and offer her a place to stay. If we all claim a part of her essence, she will never, never fade away. Were you raising your hand because you were telling me it was time, or you just
No, sister, I'm letting you know. Right. Meaning keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep coming.
How Corey back there testifying. Yeah, amen, corner.
Strolling through a gentrified zone.
Come on.
It's like plugging into a source that only has one channel. The music is hollow, chaotic at best. The voices are all wrong. Inanities screw drive their way through your ears. Laughter turns crunchy like peanut brittle. Everything throbs, but not in a natural way. It's sending your feelers out and having them come back empty because don't nobody around here vibrate like you. It's the numbness, the neutrality, the bizarre parade of semi-beings, so animated in their attempts to be indistinguishable from humans. Their crassness, their see-me gestures, their royal highness, their porcelain profiles, jutting out violently as they swarm the strip searching for beer, while sepia all-stars feared extinct search for each other. There's a disturbing smell. Abrupt, but annoyingly present. Something multi-layered, almost mist under cologne, but stinky just the same. Something so alarmingly pungent makes you hold your breath when they pass en masse, reeking of narcissism.
Read it again.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah, but then I'm gonna miss another one.
We have time. It's our own liberated territory.
When you stop me, and your wife hollers more, then I'll just pull that right back up because I just lost it, but I'll come back to it. I want you to hear the real nitty gritty first. They don't hate you. They're in awe of you. Stunned repeatedly by the complexity of you. Frustrated by their primitive inability to comprehend the depth of you. Ashamed at how short they always come up when compared to you. They don't hate you. They admire you behind closed doors. Fantasize about being you under the covers. Pretend to be you when no one is watching. And pray that one day they awake with perfect bodies like yours. They don't hate you. It's just that they can't bear to watch you shoot hoops without getting nauseous. Have a hard time containing themselves when they see you run down the field. They want to scream in pain when you dance and wish the ground would swallow them when you struck. They don't hate you. They just mad. They can't get a hold of your women like you can get theirs. Your fertility is all their worst dreams come true. Your sex appeal, even with the volume turned all the way down, can be heard by all the women of the world, while theirs can just barely be discerned with a hearing aid. They don't hate you. They want your sun-kissed lips, your sun-kissed skin, your buttocks, your good God Almighty. Their lives are ingrained with a savage envy of you. They want to rid the world of you so they can stop living in your shadow. They demonize you in a weak effort to discredit your divinity so that later they can look in the mirror without cursing themselves. They don't hate you. If they did, they wouldn't study your music like interns studying medicine. They want to sing your blues without being black and blue. They want to feel what you feel when your bodies do things that, according to physics, are impossible. They want to siphon the joy out of your melanin so they can feel something and maybe be something other than paper dolls. They don't hate you. They know things about you that they can't afford to let you find out about yourself. They know if they treat you with fairness, you'll leave them in the goddamn dust. They know if they lift the ban on color, your manhood will recover and change life as we know it on this planet. They don't hate you. They can't stand the internal strife of knowing they're missing something that you have in abundance, something you have so much of. They can't steal it, dismember it, neutralize it, castrate it, misdirect it, or even breathe it out of you, which is why they are so desperate. Their desperation is so intense and deliberately aimed at duplicating your blackness and attaching it to their skin. They don't hate you. They hate themselves for adoring you. They hate themselves for recognizing you. for failing to be like you, for not being superior to you, for not being able to replenish their race like you do. They hate themselves for worshiping you against their own will. But more than anything, they hate themselves for not being you. And the period goes right there. Betrayal. To have someone greet you up and down with smiles, stand straight as Malcolm X and lie to you, mushrooms into your being like radiation poisoning with no hint of relief. The notion of somebody close doing you wrong nibbles away at the end of your every thought. To have someone you broke bread with cheat you and stare you down with practiced deceit until you begin to question your own self is the epitome of betrayal. Still, there is a coolness in my certainty that the deities are always in motion. And the reason why Shango just pulled me aside is because somebody about to get hurt. I hate this term, but I seem to be using it every single day. Okay. So let me just say, monkey see, monkey do is not a way to transmit intergenerational information. Okay?
All right.
Monkey see, monkey do is not the intergenerational way to pass on that which is most important about being human. It will never gird our children for the battle each generation wishes it did not have to fight. The impetus to safeguard the splendor of the planet, the yearning for peaceful coexistence, the courage to fight the power will never go viral. Those whose culture is based on the gross imitation of another's monkey see, monkey do is a death knell to self-determination, an accessory to the murder of spectacular development, the grim reaper of African possibilities, wherever it replaces rites of passage. Monkey see, monkey do, assimilation and death are assured. I was going to say remember, and no, y'all ain't old enough. Okay. Okay. Blooming in the basement. Still shy to slow records. I don't know how he got me up on the floor. It wasn't his looks or the fact that he was a senior and far more versed in girls like me than I was in boys like him. It wasn't cologne, the cologne he was wearing. Well, okay, a little bit. It was the way he put his hands on my hips. The way he seized control of my movements, making the blue lit darkness part as we slipped and slid up and down. He put his hands on my hips and moved me around to the sound of my own mind flowing like lava over his proficiency in choreographed intimacy. He didn't press too close, breathe too hard, sweat my hair up, or try to feel me up. He put his hands on my hips, and I got the first inkling of the dangerous kind of woman I was going to be. People treat this like a mystery because everybody still asks, how did Trump get in office? Okay. A bunch of vaginas voted for Trump because they wanted to be groped. Embezzlers voted for him because birds of a feather empty treasuries together. Racists voted for him because thoughts of fairness make them feel suicidal. Colored people voted for him because they longed for the days of slavery. White folks voted for him so that they could get back in the saddle. Latinos voted for him because they had a sentimental fondness for dictators. Young people voted for him because their brains hadn't developed yet. Perverts voted for him because secretly they believed he was one of them. The Klan voted for him because they knew damn well he was one of them. Corporations voted for him because some a-hole gave them the rights of an individual. The Israelis voted for him because they thought they had statehood. The NRA voted for him because they know a killer when they see one. The enlisted men voted for him because Melania promised them one of of her videos. And religious zealots voted for him because the devil was busy with Monsanto and he was the only reasonable facsimile they could find. When you go home, if you get the chance to go home, you really have to go for open mind. Back to Africa. It's true that some will give you no return on your feelings of camaraderie, and some will welcome you like long-lost relatives. Some will see you as white, but not white enough to respect, just enough to resent. Some will show genuine excitement in meeting you and be thrilled to be near you with no inner agenda. Some will look at you with disdain, mock your African clothes, your inability to understand the language. Some will open their hearts and homes to you and delight in anything that you know about them. Some will regard you the way you regard them. Some will appraise you with a raised eyebrow. Some will remind you of family and friends. Some will remind you of the kind of people that you can't stand back home. Some will ask you, do you know Oprah? And some will drum so they can see you dance. Some will try to be in love with you at first sight. Some will forget to mention their wives. Some will lead you to their friends to be fleeced. Some will beg you to send them to college. Some will make you feel so sad. Some will make you feel the rage of having been taken. Some will want to go home with you to America. Some will make you wonder who the hell they've been listening to. Some will want to keep in touch just in case one day. And some will actually be disappointed and not understand. Why you got to go back there? Rescue me. If I understand you correctly, you ain't gonna lift up a finger to help, not a hand to pray, because as you claim, God got this. As opposed to what? Does that mean that you can float around in a pseudo-spiritual stupor, feet barely touching the ground, proudly abstaining from the news and those current events that shape your life because God got this? So we don't need to worry that the world is testing the waters again to see how many of us can be auctioned off without repercussions. And slavery couldn't possibly reoccur because God got this, right? Is that how you justify being an observer instead of a participant in the battle to keep the police from pouring libations with our children's blood? I know God got this, but when you gonna get it? Snitching. Let us not beat the parts that Whitey can't get to. No, let's not add bruises to a soul already callous bound. I'm not suggesting we lay lips to ass, but can we not be so quick to side with forces against our brothers before we bear unsolicited witness against them? Can we hit pause long enough to ascertain why we find this telling so necessary? If we're not going to suffer any significant losses, why the eagerness to stand across from him with our enemies and co-sign what may or may not be true, but would definitely be null and void if we could just keep our mouths closed? Let us not tear at the flesh that Whitey missed. No, let's save our talents for a more righteous kill. I'm high. Reality check. I like this. Majestic on a park bench, reserved for surviving baby boomers. A spark of dark magic in red saunters along with all the fluidity of newly discovered manhood. An ancient part of you starts to shake and shimmy till the sum total of your years emphatically whispers no. When the walking tribute to testosterone says, hey, Mom, the world rights itself in a flash. The shimmy shaker eases back into her velvet box, and an elderly blush settles permanently across your face with grace. We are not pedophiles.
That's right. That's right.
Life after 60. Sometimes it's not about sex. but midnight laughter, cut with bass and soprano, cuddling on the sofa with whispers and uncapped secrets, taking long rides to any place of wonder that can be reached. It's not always about auditioning for pleasure, but sitting side by side in the woods, in the rain, or reading to each other those lines that stir our hearts. It's slicing fruits and veggies together and discovering the joy of cooking by creating a banquet for the senses to be eaten with the fingers. It's hanging up the phone and the sudden need to meet again, to continue the conversation face to face, eye to eye. It's valuing nearness as a result instead of a process. It's hanging out like old friends without fear of cancellation, being happy in the moment without speculation. Sometimes it's not about sex, but being listened to by a heart that speaks your language. It's being alone together with a comfortable space in between. It's bathing in the glow of mutual affections and being all wrapped up in silence without a complaint. It's not always about sex, but when it is, that's all right too. There was a young man who got killed, Elijah McCain, the violinist.
Right.
Like eagles. Violinists are sacred, like bald eagles, a crime to kill. To the unevolved, they are frightening. Their closeness to angels makes virgins shudder. The gossamer sounds they produce make calcified beings crumble. They are known around the world for coming in many splendid strains, and yet they still can't walk down the streets in public without winding up the preferred sacrifice. Along with mesmerizing concertos, rewriting arias, they must learn to be invisible, to circumnavigate those enclaves full of clogged colons and feral faces when they are taught to ascend musical scales somewhere in that rapture where they strain to reach beyond notes not yet heard. Space must be made for self-defense, backed by hours of honing on the range. If they spend too much time in heaven, they'll never survive here on earth. Violinists have the breadth and the width of eagles. They are masters of the air with wing spreads that defy measurement. Both are an endangered species for the same reason. I'm gonna read one more, and then I'm gonna stop and wipe my face or sit down or either one. This is for DJ Renegade.
All right.
I didn't know they took this name. Style. Brothers on the street be playing chess. The way old timers used to play checkers. The board comes to life with the first utterance, and then they're off, throwing verbal javelins right and left, talking smack morphs into a strategy designed to interrupt concentration, to instill fear, to win over the mind before the game begins. Checkmating is like the takeover of another country. The king doesn't ease towards a coup, he stomps, buoyed by braggadocio and a palpitating heart. All pawns are ceremoniously ripped violently from their comfort zones. Brothers don't play chess. They play the hell out of it. Okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do,
No,
I
before,
left it in.
excuse me, sister. When your last poem, Sharik is coming, we're gonna have discussion with the audience.
Okay,
Just sit
I left
on
my
your
bag
throne.
over there, my
Sit
phone
on
in
your
it.
throne. You see a throne, we put two thrones.
I left my bag over there.
Okay.
There's a
Follow the
poem
script. Follow
on
the
my
script.
phone. Paul has it. And I wanted that to be the last one.
Why does Paul have it? No.
Well,
Why does he have it?
because you have a wife.
That's right, that's right.
That's a what? That's a what? I'm on my Baltimore vibe tonight. Okay?
Three more.
Yeah.
Three more.
Yeah. Preteen blues. I'm only 10. So how come I'm under the bed crying instead of making a nuisance out of myself somewhere? How come I'm not out on the playground or playing dress up in mommy's heels? I'm only 10. So how come I'm by myself? How come don't nobody call me when everybody in the world is trying to talk to everybody else in the world? I'm only 10. So why I gotta run home from school every day instead of hanging out in the park like everybody else? So why that girl keep looking at me like she wanna fight? I'm only 10. Why everybody trying to start something? Why they keep pushing? Why they keep looking at me ugly? Why they keep pushing me into her? Oh my God, I didn't do nothing. Why she hurting me? I'm only 10. So why somebody taping her beating me? Can't they see she too big? Why don't somebody get her off of me instead of posting my pain so everybody can see? I can't fight her. She too big for me. I'm only 10. And the whole world is laughing at the way she beat and beat and beat on me. Why can't everybody just go away and leave me alone in this closet with this rope and no hope? I'm only 10 years old, so why am I dead? Which was true.
Amen. Okay. Wow.
Laini Mataka! You hear that? Did you hear that?
What did I hear? What?
Wait, let's let this celebrate that whole presentation.
All right.
The whole performance and that last poem.
I'll see you outside.
That's right.
Yeah.
3 o'clock.
Let's let her catch her breath. Because, I mean, real, Laini just went in and out of so many different kinds of emotions that even as an audience, you feel like, where am I right now? You know, how do I synthesize some of these emotions? So as a presenter, it must be really a challenge as well, because I just want to catch my breath. So, on behalf of the audience, let's do that. So I hadn't planned to really have a conversation with you after this because the way that your poems say what you feel. They already tell us what you feel. And so sometimes to ask questions about what you mean means, well, weren't you listening to the poem?
Right.
So I said what I had to say in the poem. And you took us through so many different iterations of life. You know, for example, Frances Cress Welsing is something that I really want to talk about. I feel like you are a reincarnation of Frances Cress Welsing in so many ways, because she felt the life that she lived on this planet was to debunk white supremacy based on Black morality. That we're fine, that it's white people that have a problem, and it's their sense of not accepting themselves that causes our problems. So your poems seem to also be saying that. Many of your poems are also saying that hey, here we are trying to be human, and white people are just everywhere trying to deny our humanity in favor of, in order to proclaim themselves as superior. I'm not going to try to re-say what she said. So I just felt like this was the first time that I kind of saw you as this manifestation of Frances's work. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, because I know you saw Frances's demise. I mean, her last few years were not easy on this planet. And there were some of us that saw what she had to go through. So I don't know if you want to talk more about that.
I think the first time I saw Dr. Wells, it might have been in maybe 1975. Okay, and I have a picture at home of someone took a picture of my face, and it was like, because I listened to her and went, she's crazy. Who is that? Coming here talking to us like that. She must be out of her mind. And then she said, in the middle of that, you need to turn off all the music. And I was like, I know she's crazy now. Can we leave? Next time I heard her name again, I was right there. I had to show up again to make sure I ain't like her and to make sure I didn't like what she was saying. But I had to show up again. After that second time, every time I heard she was going to eat anywhere, I was right there. If I had not heard Dr. Welding, there are two things that may very well have happened. I may have been an alcoholic or an addict.
Teach.
I kept wanting to know, why do these people treat us like this? What did we do to them? Okay? But I took the whole thing on us. What did we do? Be born. Be born. And I wanted a reason so badly. And when she said what she said, it filled in so many spaces, like for the first time in my life. You know, and I was like, oh my God. I will never leave her. Okay? I will never leave her. In recent years, the apartment where I lived was being refurbished. They actually had me uptown, and my back window led straight to her back, like her back door. I wanted to go around the corner all the time. But I'm private, and I kept thinking, number one, don't just show up at that woman's house. Okay? Whether she like you or not, don't do that. Okay? And then the second one was, I didn't want to ask her, because if she said, well, why? I didn't know what to say. It was like, I want to sit at your feet. Okay? Anything you can give me, I want it. Anything you can give me, I want it. Okay? So the last thing she said to me, the last time I saw her, it was a tribute to her. I read a poem. I was coming off the stage and she said, you are such a soldier. And that was it.
That's right.
I love Dr. Welding. She is like my spiritual mother, my political mother, and all other different kinds of mother. She made sense out of me. She made sense out of us. And I wouldn't let anybody smudge or taint her memory in any way, shape, or form. Don't make me remind you I come from Baltimore.
That's right.
You F with Dr. Welding, okay? And I can show you why people talk bad about us.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That part.
So I'm glad you found her too, because in finding her, you enrich us. Because you infuse your perspective of the world in ways that she probably couldn't have. You know, we hear her in political debates, we hear her taking on these white intellectuals, so-called intellectuals, backwards, ideologues for the rights and for white superiority. She takes them on. She took them on single-handedly. And so now you take her thoughts and give them to us in an artistic way, in poetry. And so you broadcast them in ways that she could not. So we thank you for that. So that's Frances Cress Welsing. I guess I have, y'all are welcome to raise issues or questions if you want to in just a second. I also want you to talk a little bit more about, and maybe this is, just, pushing this point too hard, but I think that we do, and I'm going to merge two things. I think that we do live in an era where Black men are completely vilified. And I think that we do live in an era where Black women are called on to be a part of that vilification. And I think that we do live in an era where young people do not know how to express a collective fight. And so that those two or three combinations leave us in a difficult moment. And I guess I'm posing this to you now because you take so much time in your poetry to look into the hearts of men and the perception of women, of men. And I know that we are looking at a generation that may not get it, that may be, and this is a personal frustration, that we're working with a generation of our own making that may not get the importance of collectivity, of struggle, that you have to struggle. And I think that is an underlying theme of your poetry, that if you want Black men that are going to be at the table, you got to fight. If you want Black women that are responsive in families, you got to fight. These are struggles that are normal. They are dialectical struggles. So I'm not sure we have created children that are strong enough to engage in that.
Some, but not all. Maybe some, but not many. I don't want to just say something simple like we dropped the ball. No. We underestimated maybe what the ball was made out of and how strong the ball was when we were being beaten in the head with the ball. Okay. What is happening with our children is media. I've never seen anything like this. Okay. Those toys that you bought your children mean more to them than you do. You can't even get their attention away from the toy that you bought them. Okay? We have to be ready for, what is it? How can you used to say every 20 years we remember we're Black? Amen. Well, we do have to ride the wave, okay? Because the tide comes in and out on that one, all right? When we're feeling it real, real good and really standing up and really feeling ourselves, feeling the truth about what we are, that's where the worst treatment tips back in, okay? Finding Black bodies here, finding Black bodies there, killing people unarmed, killing a woman, killing a child, just killing Black people, no matter what they look like, no matter what their ages are, no matter what their status, killing Black people with absolutely no remorse.
That's right.
Okay? I'm sorry that in some instances I will have to admit this. We let them take some of the fight out of us with these nicely paying jobs they gave us.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
With this education they allowed us to have. They educated us to be what we turned out to be. Okay? What they created. What they created. We can't even address our own needs. Check. If you have a white president, he will look after white people and never apologize. If you were to get a Latina president, they will look after their people and never apologize. Here we come, and before we can even get one of them programs started, somebody's already doing this. Y'all racist. Y'all, if we favor ourselves more than we favor them, it's a problem. So what? Do it anyway. What are they going to do? Kill you? Somebody might do that anyhow. Okay? We don't want to go in and do the serious work. The most serious work is inner work. Okay? Not the going outside and fighting somebody or beating somebody else up in the head. It's the inner work. It's the looking at yourself and going, if it ain't African, it's alien. If it ain't African, it's alien. You can only judge the sanity of a black person by how African they are. This is not easy for a lot of people to take. When you look in the mirror and see yourself and go, whoa, okay? Because you're not on your job. Every minute of every day we make decisions. Remove some of the whiteness, replace it with the blackness. Don't paint the whiteness black and then put it back up in here and try to make us follow you. That is not what I'm talking about. Our ancestors left us so much information. We don't ever have to listen to anybody's anything. Dad, we're the first people on the planet. Why we keep apologizing for that? We're acting like we don't know that. The first people on the planet. That means we have the longest running experience of what it is to be human. How serious that is. And then have somebody just take that away from you. How do we get the children back? Well, I seem to be stuck on a certain subject these days. And I would like, since the 60s and 70s, my age, I would like us to turn around and start talking to our younger women. One of the greatest problems we have is our men and our women having babies, not out of wedlock, having babies without a commitment to each other or even to the child. Gotta stop. Gotta stop. We're making our children crazy with that. Woman, men are always important to us. Okay? When a black woman says, I don't need no black man, your mother did. Okay? Black men, you crazy, you want to, I don't need no black woman. Oh, so what that mean? Your mother's supposed to go to hell? We gotta get to where we understand what it takes to raise a child. And we don't seem to understand that right now, okay? Putting clothes on it, cute clothes, rolling it down in a expedition double-decker stroller with a telephone in its mouth to play with. Come on. And you got 4 children. And you don't have a man. Because the men in your life are phantoms.
Come on.
That has to stop. It really has to stop. So I'm gonna go where Frances Weldon did one day and made me absolutely sick. Because I didn't want to hear this from her. She said, don't sleep with men you don't want to have babies by. I'm like, who is listening to that? And I was a bit of a tart at the time, you know, so this is the 70s. And then I kept listening. And then I kept being unhappy about my own preferences, my own relationships. Always had some song about how somebody hurt me. Didn't nobody hurt me.
Come on.
I chose poorly.
Come on.
I chose poorly. Okay? Nobody hurt me. The thing I was searching for was something that I didn't even offer myself first. Okay? Before you give away any of your essence, save a part of it yourself first. Okay? Before you go out and start to share with other people. I rambled and I know I don't know where I went, but I think I hit some of it.
Oh, you did it. You did it.
And I think there were some questions as well.
As a native Washingtonian who has seen what the drug, crack cocaine has done to the city, I'm reminded of the Sankofa bird example. we gotta lean back to the egg. And our children are the egg that's reaching for hope. And it seems as though when that bird head is trying to go forward, there is no hope or organizations or unity of people, or Martin, Malcolm, or Dorothy Height, or Dick Gregory in place. So how do we encourage our children from our past ancestors to move forward under that bird example?
I think the first thing we need to move towards, even if we don't know anything about Africa at all, is decency. You know what I mean? You have to have a code to live by.
Come on.
Something that you absolutely will not do, okay? You have to have that, and then hold to it, okay? You can make it yourself. You don't have to take what somebody else shoved at you. You can, as many of us in this room, you've customized yourself for that. And when we say Sankofa, it's a verb, number one.
Come on.
Okay.
And number two, we need to be very discerning, because everything that was going on back there does not need to be brought up into this time period or brought to this country. So when we say we want to do those things, we must be very, very specific about which of those things we want to bring back, arm ourselves with as we go into the future to fight. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I would just like to PS on that, because what Laini's poetry does is it's a call for action.
That's right.
This is a call for action. All her poems are a call for action. Otherwise, why? Why have them? You know, all the poems that I heard, like, dang, I need to do this. Oh, okay, now I need to do this. Because they are really looking at things that are issues that we have control to correct. We do. So everything we do here at Sankofa, for example, is an attempt to address some of these things. And you never, if you're solution oriented or change oriented, you hear her poems and just say, okay, I can do this. And if knowing that you live in a society that says, one, you can't, but two, when you do, they're gonna undermine it. So the carpet gets pulled out from institutions that you create. So these kids that you're talking about don't have institutions to go to anymore. When I grew up, we had 3, 4, 5 places we could hang out as young people. Now, where are they gonna hang out? And plus, crack is real. So now, what does that mean? What do we do? What do you do? I would turn that question back to you.
Well, what I would do is, first and foremost, I am a survivor of the crack cocaine epidemic. I did have addiction, I did have mental health, and I did have suicidal ideation. I'm an author as well. But I'm a grandmother of 10. And where I'm turning it back, I have a sister here, Sister Joe Patterson of Parent Watch, and a brother Kai. We're turning it back to say, hey, look, you can sit up and look at me and say, I smoke crack. I'm gonna tell you I smoke crack, but the crack was brought into the city.
That's right.
The crack wasn't me.
That's right.
So I had no other choice. So now what we do is try to encourage the youth that just because you might not have a birth mother and father with you, you're not alone. So that's what we've been trying to do, to bring hope back to the community through, I'm talking about Rhonda right now, through my life story, that there is hope and not to give up. And you're not what your diagnosis say you are. And I find that people tend to, you know, especially here in Washington, D.C., oh, you got a one-parent home, you're not worth anything, or, you know, I'm listening to you. I love you, and I appreciate the fact that you keep it real. Nobody wants to keep it real anymore. And just hearing your poetry kind of has brought that spark to me, because I am a change agent, and we're all in this room of change agents, but we gotta not be scared.
Teach.
So how do we not be scared? Without, somebody say, oh, well, I see you doing something, then he X you out of the equation, like a Martin or a Malcolm. So I find with me, you, and my sister, from her, Washington, Denise Patterson, I find that you have to walk in your power. She always tells me that give truth to your power. And I think that's what our children are looking for. They're looking for somebody to say, okay, well, dang, I see you. You're not Dr. Hyde, you're not this person, but you are a leader within this community.
Thanks for sharing that with us, because that's really, that's it. I mean, if she did anything tonight, it's to help us understand you, so we could see how we can also support you. I would also love, and I'm sure Heidi would too, and the staff, we would love to do something on crack.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Because we lived through that, you know, how many people in this room lived through that era?
We could do a conference.
Ducking and dodging.
2 days, 3 days.
If you looked at it, it was a lifestyle. You had to deal with one way or the other. So I don't know if you have any ideas, but we would love to do something that kind of looks at that era and how it was a nationally planned era.
Yes.
To cool out the protest movement in this country. And it did. It distracted
And
everybody.
I thank you, like I said, just listening to your poem, what I heard, it just inspired my heart. And, you know, I'm just grateful right now and honored to be here tonight.
Thank you so much.
So, okay, my husband's pointing, I gotta listen to him.
Go ahead, my sister. You.
Good evening,
Do we have a second mic? Because I don't think people in the back can always hear.
Right next to Laini.
Go forward. You can go forward.
Come on, TT, you go forward.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, baby.
I'm gonna limit my thing to 2 things until that sister said about the crack. Because I was born in DC, but I grew up across the bridge. We got some gentrified communities that crack was introduced to. And some of us survived. My husband didn't survive the crack epidemic. And even though he's alive, he's not. He did not survive. So what I intended to say is, I first want to honor this sister right here, Laini Mataka.
Laini Mataka!
And we need a movie. We need some documentation so that she can speak to our kids forever and ever, whether she's here or not. Maybe she's gonna be on the continent and you can't find her, and she's on retreat. Your children still need to hear the words. I just want you to know what you already know, how brilliant this woman is. When my mother died, I asked her to please come and honor my mother. And she said, well, send me a few things about your mother. So I sent her a resume or something. She turned a few words into a brilliant poem that depicted my mother to the T. That's nothing but God right there. The divine spirit that could take a few words and turn them into a masterpiece. That's what you're looking at right here. We should be in an auditorium full of people, but we know what they've done to our voices. The second thing I wanted to say is it's probably you that introduced my family to Frances Cress Welsing.
Yeah, you know it.
You gave us, okay, everybody, a cassette tape.
Okay.
And Frances Cress Welsing is the woman who helped me to understand white supremacy. She told me that white supremacy, she taught me, is a survival mechanism. Because with all the science that we know, the only way you're going to survive as a white race, because some people seem to think we need to, survive as a race and people, the only way the white race could survive is not to mix with anything else. And so to develop this document that they are superior to everybody else is for their survival. So when Dr. Cress Welsing defined it as this is a case of survival, you know that for survival, you'll do anything. Your back is against the wall, you come out fighting. So when she explained it to me like that, the big black balls and the little white balls theory, yeah, it was only one cassette tape. I got the other books and I read some of them. My mama read one too. Okay. I'm just saying that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing taught me why white supremacy exists. And if we understand it that way, we can help our children to understand it. It should be in the schools. And if they're running your school, which they are, then we should be teaching our children why white supremacy exists. And in my community, they've ramped up the stopping of black men because other people are coming north that don't look like us and they don't act like us, and they're infiltrating our communities. So I want to give honor to the sister while she's alive. Somebody better make a movie because I want my children send their love, sister, and they remember you. And they love you. And I'm gonna shut up right now because I can talk forever on the inspiration.
Okay, can you pass the mic out, maybe starting up here and then.
Laini,
I know.
yeah, it's incredible for me. I've always said that Laini represents and is the poet for the Black Liberation Army. I told her that 25, 30 years ago. And I told her that because of the poems that she speaks and speaks the truth to power. She just did a poem on Assata Shakur. Assata Shakur, as everybody knows, was liberated. There were several of us that were indicted. Some of us were not indicted. The ones of us that were indicted, Bilal Sunni Ali was freed. He served 2 years in jail because he didn't snitch on nobody. Mutulu Shakur went through the same trial, served 37 years in jail, was due out in 30. They injected him with cancer. He fought cancer for 7 years in the jail, and my conversations with him off and on throughout those years, him sending those brothers that you were just speaking about to my house, they still exist today. Him going through chemotherapy, radiation therapy, stem cell therapy, immunotherapy, and I can go on and on and on. Him dying twice and coming back within those 7 years. When he got released, December 16th, myself and Dr. Tatsu Harano were his official practitioners. Those of you who know me know this story. We went out there and we kept him alive for 5 months using holistic lifestyle. I cooked his breakfast, lunch, dinner, acupuncture, foot detox, all the things that we do that you all know that I do and have been doing for over 40 years. Mutulu Shakur was one person who was locked up. The other person was Sekou Ungabazi Abdullah Odinga. Brother Sekou Odinga supposedly was convicted as the person who was in charge of that whole entire operation of breaking Assata Shakur out of jail. He served 37 years in jail. He just left us a month ago after serving those 33 years, coming home, 2014, and we just lost him. Here in the audience today is Sister Dekwe Sekou Odinga, his wife, who is here in Washington, D.C. So let's please welcome her. This is why I love Laini, because Laini was talking about us. Laini was talking about the Black Panther Party, Paul. Laini was talking about the Black Liberation Army, the Republic of New Africa, RAM, the Revolutionary Action Movement. She's talking about brothers who are not scared. I remember going to a CD release, and she did a poem on me. And the last sentence in the poem was, excuse my language, don't fuck with Kakai. This was the last line in the poem that she did. That was what, 25, how long ago? It was right at the height of the Assata Shakur and all of that stuff when we was going through all of our changes. So I appreciate her talking about Black men and the importance of Black men standing up. But I also appreciate her letting you all know that there are black men like that, and have been around you the whole time. And that there are black men around you right now that are like that. You ain't always gonna know who they are. Laini knows who they are. This is why she's been doing these poems ongoing about black men. One of the poems are mandatory for my students, a couple of them that are here. A mandatory poem that she does on somebody's always bad-mouthing black men. And they have to listen to that poem and write a report on it. This is who this sister is. So I'm gonna yield and give it to my sister Sekou Daquil Dinger. I said my sister Sekou. I'm sorry.
Keeping his presence.
Yeah, Sekou's in the house. I called her Sekou.
I just want to say, before I start, thank you. I want to make sure I get you that book that you were reading from, because your poetry is beautiful. It's powerful. It's insightful. It's refreshing and affirming. It's about resistance, and it's reminding us who resist that we're not crazy in a world that is driving us crazy.
That's
I thank you for your work and for your words. And I just want to say, in terms of what you said about maybe a conference about, like when people talk about crack cocaine, right, the so-called war on drugs. A lot of times what is missing with our folks is the context. What happens here is related to what happens in other places. Crack cocaine was put, and guns were put in our community to overthrow the government in Nicaragua, right? The democratically elected government. So when people don't understand global politics, they don't understand that our communities were sacrificed for the global policies of the United States criminal enterprise. And I also think that it's important that people know about COINTELPRO, because we are living the legacy of the war on Black liberation in the 1960s and 70s, the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army and all of those organizations. And one of the things that J. Edgar Hoover said was one of its principal points was to prevent the long-term coalition of militant Black youth. There goes the so-called war on drugs, the mass criminalization that lots of Black folks went along with of young Black men, right? Followed by Black women and then Black children. So if we don't understand global politics, if we don't understand domestic politics, if we don't understand what COINTELPRO was and is, like a lot of the stuff that it did, they've made legal, but we're still living the legacy of that illegal operation. And so in everything we do, I work on behalf of political prisoners, U.S. held political prisoners and prisoners of war. And it is only in this country that people don't know that political prisoners do not exist. We have people who have been in prison for 50 years, and people don't say their names. We have people who are co-defendants or, like Kakai said, involved with the liberation of Asada, who talk about what Asada taught me, who talk about it's our duty to fight, but they never say Sundiata Akoli's name. Right. They never say Kamal Siddiqui's name. They never say the names of people who are associated with her because she's a part of a movement. So when we do events and we talk to our children and we teach, we have to help them to understand the context so that they know that this didn't just happen. Crack cocaine didn't just happen. It was deliberate, right? And all of the stuff that we live with, what our young people think is music didn't just happen, right? Because when it started, they wouldn't play it on radio. But when they saw that Black people, young Black people were determined to listen to it, they said, oh, we got something here. And they took it and poisoned it and fed it back to our children. So we have to help people to develop the understanding of the context. So I say that about imperialism, and I say that about COINTELPRO in everything that we do. for them to understand that. So I know I ramble, but.
No, it's
Thank you, sister. I'm glad you rambled because we need to be reminded about that. That context is very important. And people still in jail now who were political when they went in jail, but now they're living out the consequences of that whole attack on them as children. They were soldiers in a war in Nicaragua and didn't know it. They were in that war. So
We need to understand energy.
Come on.
Everything has energy. Okay? In our case, we refer to it as Ashe. That is your God-given power to make things happen. Okay? To create something out of nothing. To do what God does. Okay? If we can understand energy, then you don't have to be afraid of, if I pick up the gun, they're gonna do this. No. We can start directing our energy, using it individually for certain things, but then using it collectively. Somebody said to me one time, well, they got all the guns, and they got this, and they got that. And I said, our superiority is our weapon. We don't have to pick up guns. Our superiority is our weapons. We need to learn how to direct energy. Stop poo-pooing it as if it's something that don't mean nothing. Stop looking at our indigenous African religions as that's silly stuff or some voodoo bullshit, okay?
Come on now.
If you're using your energy, we can pull it out of anything that we want to. So we can withdraw as much of our energy out of white supremacy as we can mount. We don't want to ask each other to do right now. We don't have to ask each other to do impossible things. We don't have to ask each other to do things we can't do. Do the things you can do,
That's it.
but do them in the
right.
name of
That's right.
all of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let's take a couple more questions.
Address Dr. Ben. How many people know when she read the poem of Dr. Ben? How many people know? Dr. Ben. Good. We have about 20 books here, thanks to this former Black Panther Party brother fighter, and now the most important publisher in Black Classics.
Hero.
We published so many 100 years back, Black intellectual property. So this year, I just want to say that. And Asana Shikura, we have her book here also. So if you didn't know who the person was in her poetry, we have it. It's just bogarting to sell some books.
And today's the 12th, 16th, and I love this.
Wait.
Ida B. Wells and Asada going on the same
Come
day.
on now. Come on.
Is that something?
That's right.
Ida B. Wells used to walk down the street with 6 shooters on her hips. We need to do something with that day.
Come on.
Go ahead, my sister.
Yeah.
You were talking about energy.
Put the mic here, sister.
And I'm a retired school teacher, 14 years teaching and administration. And a lot of these books in here need to be in our schools.
Yes.
And we need to know that parents sit on the boards of deciding these books. And we have to think about how many of us and the people we know sit on those boards and get involved.
Good point.
Most school boards meet at least once a month. I know in Baltimore, they announce it on the third Tuesday, and you get to voice your opinion. Schools have PTAs. But as a teacher, I've been in a school where there are 1,200 kids, and we might get 150 parents. And that's where the power and the energy needs to be directed. You want to feed the minds of your children, you have to be there to decide what's going into their minds. And you have that charge, and you can do that. Because every time we select new textbooks, parents are invited to come in and sit on those boards.
And you
And
have
all of
been
my
a
kids,
teacher
Right.
supreme.
Right.
You don't know who she is. Her name is Sadiqa Nichols of Baltimore.
but I mean, you have to bring the culture that
More
you
than
talk
excellent.
about into your school. I make clothes as well as a hobby, and I take that skill into the schools to introduce my students into cultural clothing from Africa, Indian, Asian, so that we can see how we connect. I know storytellers, so when we have programs, we bring them into the schools. I tell parents about it. Laini has done work. So Paul's son that I taught in school. So I'm saying we have to actually get involved.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any great scale, buy no tanks and guns. You have to get into these schools, into these meetings. If you're in a church, mandate that your pastor make time to get young people in and hear what they have to say, and then young, older people facilitate and tell them about the kinds of things that are available for them to use to build their businesses and do the things they want to do. Things many of us didn't have courage to do. They have ideas. They say, I want to build a robot. I want a robotics program in my school. You can get that. You make enough noise about it. That's what the news media is for. We have to learn how to manipulate the media the way the media manipulates us. When we're doing something great, call them in. Let them know. Did you get this? Call Fox 45 in Baltimore. You want to start some trouble, call Fox 45. They'll get it started for you. And then you facilitate the direction you put the power to. So I'm saying that's my specialty as an educator, as a facilitator. When kids say they want to do something, I'm going to tell them where to go get the tools to do it. Who can you call? Who do I know that does that and bring that in? So you all know people who are interested and have skills and talents. Connect them to your children and your grandchildren's school and demand that they are acknowledged and brought in and shared that talent. So you can make things happen. I hurt my arm when I was in the 8th grade. I sew with one
Teach.
hand. I taught for
She
42
makes my
years.
clothes.
I
She
built
does her
things.
own
I
patterns.
garden. We have power to do anything we want to do.
That's right.
People told me you'll never be able to drive. Then drive. I had an accident, broke my pelvis. I'm not even supposed to be walking right now. I walked in here and tripped and got the hell up and came on here. So you know, I'm just saying, there are things already in place. We don't have to design anything. We have to use them and direct our energies toward these services that are already available that we're not using.
Teach.
But down there in Florida, the white parents are using, they don't even want to teach history no more. And they said, we're going to fight not to teach the truth. And if those of us who know the truth don't fight to hear the truth, they going to win. Yeah. They going to stop colleges from telling you about imperialism. Industrialization is built on the backs of indigenous people around the world. We steal all of their raw materials, bring them to America, Europe, make items they can't even afford out of their shit. Their chocolate, their cocoa, their oil, their magnanimous inventions that they have. They've been running after a black man in Africa who came up with an idea how to run cars out off of water. You heard about it? They done tried to kill him 6 or 7 times, haven't they? Because that would put Africa on the map. Making energy from water, something that we have all over the place, but you don't want a black man to do it. The electric car was invented all the way back in the 70s. They encouraged people not to use it, paid the guy not to patent his design, threatened him, was going to kill him. Now they talk about the electric car as a saving grace. But when it came out, because the oil companies and fossil fuel companies didn't want that kind of paradigm shift in the energy world, we had to suffer all that long time. Just like they told us about the hidden figures. after all the women almost ready to die. I would have loved that encouragement when I was back in the 60s in high school and middle school, knowing that these black women mind made the space program possible. They got people in India, they call it the Dalit, or we were taught the untouchable. They're just like a black caste in their own country. It's the melanin in us that make us dangerous. The only way white people can make white people stay with white people, but they love color. We ain't trying to kill nobody. We trying to bring them back in the fold. They a part of us. I'm telling you, my mother told me that when I told her to Crest Third back in the 70s when Francis Rosen gave UMBC, my mother was staunch Christian. She said we gotta welcome them back in the fold. They were bleached out as known recessive genes. And we ostracized them and pushed them out, and they start making with each other and prove themselves that they were special. But we can wipe them out just through some good stuff. I don't want to talk no more. That's just my inspiration. Me and Francis and her together.
Okay, we have three more questions. No, this is no. I just want to know all Baltimore Army has come today, and I want to make sure who is the leader so we can make this stuff more.
Good day, good everyone. How's everybody? Good. Quickly, thank you, Heidi. Laini is a treasure. And I was standing back there, treasure, you know, treasure. We hold you dearly. And she's gonna take her treasure with Siddiqui in about 2 weeks to Tanzania.
All right.
And I think it might be her first time to travel Africa, I'm not sure, but if not, she's going. So Siddiqui is our nonprofit, and they give us a lot of support here at Sankofa. We have a lot of events here like this great event. Thank you so much. And we empower and educate youth and all generations for culture, on-hands learning projects in the community. And we're gonna take eight of us will travel to Tanzania in 2 weeks. And we'll go to the United African Alliance Center with Charlotte and Pete O'Neill, who are warriors. And they have a big compound there. And Dar es Salaam, Zanzibar, Bagamoyo, which is an agricultural village in Tanzania. So we wish her well, and everybody be with us as we travel. And Siddiqui will take 3. Is Tehran here? They have 3 youth and 5 adults. So we sponsored 4 with the help of this institution and all of you in the community. So Siddiqui Education Safari really thanks you, and everybody be well.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. King. Your poem, especially about the 10-year-old. By the way, I'm Joe Patterson. I'm Kakai's sister, and she referenced me as Parent Lunch Incorporated. And I see another woman came back there, Allison, Dr. Parker. And so we greet you also. We talked about the 10-year-old, and I'm kind of getting teary-eyed with all of the wealth here. But Parent Watch, we are housed also in the youth detention center. And what I want to say is we need you there. And everyone in this room, I want to say they're killing our children. I see it every day. We have youth that are harming themselves in that facility. And we have people that are constantly saying, you gotta have a concept, you gotta apply for a grant, no, we need everyone over there to talk to these youth. When I say those 3 kids that escaped that y'all saw in the news from PIW, because they want to drug our kids. They don't want to heal our kids. And I think someone said the human conversation or the inner healing. So I'm gonna leave this card, but I want y'all to come over there. I'll take you on the pod. I was talking to our young kids today because when an incident happens, they want to call the police to give them other charges. when they're not providing the healing, they get maybe 30 minutes of education. Parent Watch is only one person, because as you say, they don't want to fund us or to help us. It's immediate dedication. Dr. Lee Scolati and Francis Cress Wilson, I was only 21 when I experienced them. They started a drug mobile car, their little car, because police were raping our women that were addicted on drugs. I think it's called, those cops, they had turtle Mickey Mouse. Well, anyway, it was 2 officers that was just raping and then let them go. So I'm saying to y'all, the youth center, and we have to do hashtag, we're doing a campaign, change the verbiage. And I told the youth today, they're talking about y'all like you're animals, but they're not animals. We don't have enough Joe Pattersons in there. We don't have enough Parent Watch in there. We don't have enough Dr. Parker and everyone in this room that's having this conversation. We have 365 days in a year. And if one person comes and do one day, can you imagine how much power we could have to save those youth that are calling each other in the bitches and you look baggy, you're gay. And I was and I'm gonna stop here, but I was in the pod with them. I said, and I learned this from Matula, your body is in here, but your mind doesn't have to be locked up. And I said to them, the guards, when you have a problem, 15 white shirts run up there. And then they shove them all in the room. Then they tell y'all they broke the toilet, they broke the TV, and all those different things. That's the only way they can speak and talk in their voice. But we need to come in there and tell them like I told them today. I said, everything y'all do, they watching it on the camera. That book that YDR has, everything you say is written in that book. Y'all got to use your mind. Reverse this. Hashtag change the verbiage of how we're allowing people to describe our children, describe our Black women, and describe our families. Because as you say, we are the seeds. We are. Everyone use our skills to raise their families. So we can't be that bad, because they even trust us to still take care of their kids, and they say we dumb and we don't this and we don't that. So that's all I have to say, and I just honor this environment and this room and this book that you even allow people to come in and embrace this. You ain't saying put the book down, you ain't paying for it. You let them touch it and feel it. So thank you. Wife or man ain't nothing without a woman. And my queen here, keep on believing, keep on achieving, keep on showing up, and let God shine through you. Because you got it. And all of us got it. We just got to deliver it. Y'all know what a youth center is?
Let me say something before everybody disappears. Paul Coates, where did he go?
He said he had to leave.
No, he's not going to leave. I told him he can't leave. Paul Coates, would you please sit down on your throne? We gave you a throne, not Baltimore. Washington gave you a throne. I want to say this.
Baltimore gave him a kingdom. Go ahead.
I can't compete with the. She's a warrior with words. Who would go against that one? I ain't saying nothing to her, but I want to say something very important for you guys. One of the things you have to know is there's 4 Black publishers: Red Sea Press, Third World Press, Black Classic Press, and African World Press. And I cannot believe. I cannot stress but tell you how they could go out of business any minute, because they're publishing the intellectual power of the African people in this hemisphere and in Africa and in Latin America.
That's right.
For me, you know, the most powerful weapon that nobody outgrows is the intellectual legacy Black people left for African people. These books are the hydrogen bombs of our people. They invented them. Sometimes we're made to look at a gun, all of us, including the hood, etc. To me, the most powerful weapon, equivalent to hydrogen bomb, are these books left by our folks when they didn't make a penny on it. Working everywhere, anywhere, and writing these books. To me, the battleground is also shoving books on kids. It's not only just lecturing them, but making them touch the books. Some books will jump on their own, but some of us, the parents, have to really, especially now, see, the problem here is when white folks say, oh, we give you this, they take it back anytime.
Right.
So for me, all what we know is that Africans in the Americas had independent schools. Where are they now? It's because of the neglect of the community by the reform, believing the reform white folks gave us in their institution. And now they're talking about, you're making our children guilty to talk about slavery. Can you believe that? Okay, this is what's happening now. That Black history, as much as is needed for all young people, they're preventing young people from touching, reading it, etc. They're becoming formidable force. So for me, what's very important is knowing the battle. This bookstore, my wife and me started it thanks to Sankofa, the film. And this is the fruit we wanted to demonstrate to our community. But you don't know how much hard it is to survive, you know, the economic challenge, because the banks are not friendly. You know, whatever much you believe, when it's an independent idea, banks don't finance that. And it's a struggle to exist. So I'm saying every Black store you know, bookstore you know, is where your ancestors left the hydrogen bomb for you to pick it up for your children. And you have to frequent that. I know in Washington, one of the reasons we survive here, there are Black folks who come every Saturday. We know few number of Black people who will at least buy a book over a weekend. Now I went to Black Classics. This brother, I admire him. They're my modalities. I make films, but I think of them. I know him when he was selling books on a table at Howard University. And I always admire them, how they built an institution. Third World Press, Haki is an amazing builder. But he can go out any minute because you're not involved in his survival. Although they're the ones who brought these books. Woodson Carter, when I went to Black Classic, I didn't know Woodson Carter. I taught at Howard University for 43 years. I didn't know he wrote all those many books. I only knew one book, Miseducation of the Negro. And I went there, I picked up about 10, 15 of Woodson Carter, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark. So I'm saying it's really the battleground is snatching our children from the brainwashing mechanism or machine to present to them by at least controlling the environment of our houses. In many Black people's, in my class, we don't have bookshelves. Our kids don't know bookshelves. We have bookshelves. I think her and me would be like the dinosaurs who would go with bookshelves. Our kids, none of my kids I raised have bookshelves. That is like for me where I say, where did we go wrong? Bookshelf is alien. It's not even in their marketing item. And I'm saying the battle is there. Fight for our children to snatch them from television captivity. Because if you remember Maroons, which we're doing a film on Maroons, Maroons were snatching Black people in every plantation into freedom, into the forest, all the way to Mexico. So I'm saying we are relaxed people, as if we have now living in an ice cream world of our own invention. I am telling you, I know my wife don't like to tell her blues to nobody, and I'm telling you, we're fighting this to stay here. We're fighting. And that's why we call it a liberated territory. We fighting because we know we made DVD movies, we made our own films. She made Through the Door of No Return, Pan-African Footprint. I don't know how many of you have seen. We want you to show our film to our children. The Wilmington 10, my sister, is called Wilmington 10,000 USA because we didn't want to say Wilmington 10s, the 10 people are the prisoners. If you see the film now, it's now restored, you will see black folks, black parents in North Carolina. When we showed it in Austria, the folks were saying, these black people are philosophers. These are maids, masons, bricklayers. Their philosophy is mind-boggling in this film. So we want to show it. And we want you to hear our announcements all the time. We could do a joint screening with you, my sister, because I wish I interviewed you for the film I did. It was, what, 40 years ago or whatever, when we did the film. It's called the Wilmington 10 USA 10,000. And we're going to do a showing again to raise money for PFW. How many of us are involved so they don't go down?
That's right.
You don't know how hard it is for them to survive. And part of the gentrification is to take them out. Right. Some of them don't even know because they're squabbling with each other. But I told them, you're next to be gentrified because white folks want that radio station. So how many of us are involved all the time? We want to do fundraising. We're doing a program called every other, next Sunday. This Sunday or next Sunday? Next Sunday we have a thing called Gaza in Our Mind. Because there's a lot of black Palestinians you don't know. This is being unearthed in the struggle. We didn't know the first slave revolt was in Iraq, African people. Their picture just came when Iraq busted out. And people say, who are these African folks who did the first uprising on slavery? So I'm saying in Palestine, we have a stake of our own people there. So we're saying Gaza in our mind. What we want is poets, artists, painters to come and present their solidarity in the form they are comfortable. Okay? And so we have that. Then we have jazz nights. The brother who composed for Sankofa, most of you like the film. The guy is here at least every other week doing jazz concert here. I still wait to see. Did you ever come, Paul? Shame you. I'm gonna shame you. But what's very important now is, now you heard the sister here. To me, that is the rocket. Why we don't need weapon. I'm serious. I don't know. Me, I picked up the camera when Latin Americans were calling it the new hydrogen bomb camera, because all of us are the prisoners of white camera. We don't know it. Some of us even, we just go crazy about our bombastic Africanity. But how colonized we are comes out when we express our desires, our attractions. Then the Hollywood grammar starts to come, because good nose, good hair, bad hair. Black hair still catches hell now. You don't expect it, but black hair from here to Ghana to Nigeria, black hair is still suffering by our own hands. Hollywood's war on black people is 100 years' work. So I'm saying, let's honor the weapon they left us. These books should be in your house. They should be in the shelf. Her book, I know you're going to take a lot because, she is well known in us. She's our priestess of poetry, our warrior, as many people expressed it better than I. But I'll tell you, how much do we know about her survival? Dr. Kress, how much did we know what she was going through? How much did we know? How much were we involved at the time where they were gentrifying, surrounding her, gentrifying, and playing music and bombarding her out of her own life, home? So to me, I'm saying, black people, if you're not awake at the time you should be awake, to celebrate a dead black person is not wisdom, in my view. It's like carrying the skin of people. To me, you celebrate the past by the way you push this confusion of the present into a better future, however imperfect that future is. Thank you very, very much. Paul, I mean it. I'm not trying to not pay my bill, but I'm telling you, it's very important that his system survives. To me, I want black people to come and say to me, hey, Haile, who's owning your negative, Sankofa? Who owns it? I lived all my life not to sell it to white people. But what does a black person come and say, don't sell that negative, wait for a second. Wait, come and say to me, I want to buy the negative, don't sell it to white people. I'm waiting for that black person.
That's
I was the only guy out of my group who has not sold anything to nobody, except maybe to Ava. I've given her a 5 years, distribution right. But to me, black people have to know you have to communally buy the intellectual property of black people.
I wanted to try to get out of here, like I promised my wife I was gonna be out of here. Holly said, just wait for one more minute. God, she goes on and on and on and on.
Your books, your books.
Look, I just want to do two things. One, I really want to acknowledge Sankofa, Holly Green, because as generous, I shouldn't say as generous, the one thing I think he's a tremendous black man who expresses himself through film and through institution building with his wife, Shirikiana. But the one thing I think that often gets overlooked is how generous he is.
That's right.
Especially with other black people. I always cringe when Halle talks about Black Classic Press and Ike and the other publishers, because he is he's just an institution unto himself that has just birthed other people around him, including Shirikiana, including his family.
He's going to get me killed tonight.
Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge that, and I want to acknowledge always in this space, always, when Holly says this is sacred space, this is our sacred space. This is it. And the way you pay honor, you don't have to tithe, but you do, you should if you want to get out of here. Purchase a book, purchase 2 books, purchase whatever you can. Always come in and do that, because it's an acknowledgement of the struggle that he's talking about other people going through. And I just I don't want to go on, because I will go on, and I'm not going to do that. But 2 things. One, can you please in closing read the poem of Eddie Conway, please?
Eddie Conway, you're supposed to.
I knew you were gonna do that.
Yeah, well, that's good.
By the way,
you
this
knew.
is also a new
I'm
book
glad you knew I
published.
was gonna do it.
But our new book is published by Black. Paul,
Yeah.
this is the new book you published, but all of them are they under your publication.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, sister, power.
So,
2 black folks
so-
producing.
so this,
Can I do one other thing,
Yes.
please?
I'm the president.
You're not the president. I'm asking your wife if I can do it. Look, so I just want to acknowledge Sadiqa also, and this goes back to you talking about your children. So people always talk about Ta-Nehisi and how he reads, but I'm gonna be straight with you, because Sadiqa and I have talked about this. She was a teacher in the 7th grade, I think, or 6th grade, I can't remember. But the point is, I used to drill books in the Ta-Nehisi as I drilled books in all of my kids. And then one day, I think I'd given him African Glory or something like that, and I told him, get on this. And he would read it, but there would never be any feedback. And then he went to school, and he came back one day, and he started talking about Miss Nichols. So a lot of times they said, like you can put what you want to put into kids, and the environment around them has to support, or will support it in a way. Will support it in a way in which it confirms what you have been saying. Okay. It confirms what you have been saying, and that's what Sadiqa did for Ta-Nehisi. As far as I'm concerned, she's the one who blew his head off. I had the material and I had the stuff and continue to counsel him, but it took an outside ingredient, and that ingredient was Sadiqa. So when Laini says, you guys, that's who she is, okay? And that's who she will always be. to us.
We had one called Miss Hunter for our kids in Washington. Go ahead.
Yeah, so no, that was it, and I have,
Said you're.
And my
thank you very much.
my
Thank
sister
you.
over there, we want to do something with you, as Shurikiana
Yes,
said.
and let me just
Sure.
propose something concrete. Because I think maybe what we can do, we do, this is a sacred space. We try to make it liberated, but we're clear that we are not, we are as liberated as this country will allow us to be.
That's right.
So while we have this, we have a good friend in Kathy Collins. She says, yes, you're marginalized, but guess what you can do on the other side of that wall? So we recognize what side of that wall we exist in the shadow of that wall. For as long as we can, let's do what we can. So if we have the capacity here to sell books, to make these warriors that came before us and are here with us now also, present for our kids, here they are. Let's take advantage of it. I'm holding it wrong again.
Hold the mic in the middle. Don't cover the antenna.
Well, you didn't give
So
me
when-
instruction.
So when we have this advantage, let's take advantage of it. So I guess what I'm saying is two things. One is I would like to do a program on COINTELPRO if we haven't done one already. I know our events people do things. Okay. So Paul has republished COINTELPRO. And this is a book that shaped me when I was young. And I was talking, where's COINTELPRO? I know I read this book. And it was just out of print for a long time. And then here Paul comes and reprints it, 2 volumes.
it's COINTELPRO and it's my brain is
So
dead.
let's do an event. I don't know if Mari too is still here. Let's do an event with COINTELPRO, and let's have use that as an opportunity to talk about crack. So why don't we just have some people here who are on the ground now, doing some organizing, doing some groundwork to save our children.
That's right.
And because we're a bookstore, we need a book. We don't just have organizing events. We use a book, an author to jump into these ideas, to organize around. So if to me, that's something I would love to, that's something I'm proposing. And I think if you're really serious about how we can use this space, let's use that. Let's take advantage of that possibility. You trying to say something?
Yes, I want to ask the audience here. I've heard a lot of good things so far about the necessity of having these books, this information, this knowledge to be passed on to our children. Whether we like it or not, we're moving into a digital age that we cannot escape from. It's inevitable that the digital age is coming. Our children are connected to their devices. We cannot escape it. We are a few that believe in these material things here. But the future says different. Don't we have to have some sort of a preparation for us to make that transition in order to be able to at least counter what our children are going to face when the digital age completely consumes them? We cannot avoid it. Whether we like it or not, we can give them all these books as much as we can. But as time goes on, there will be less and less of these materials that are going to be available. Everything is going to transition towards digital format.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and let's have some workshops on that. Let's have a theme that brings these ideas to get together, these ideas for how to not only combat it, but take advantage of it to make sure that our best thinkers and philosophers are brought into the digital age. But let's not call it a finished story.
That's right.
Because you recycle, and at some point, just like record players are replacing certain CDs now.
That's right.
You go into these cycles, and radio, for example, was a done deal when TV came. It wasn't a done deal.
And the vinyl's back.
So that's what I said. Vinyl's back. So I think you're right. Let's plan a workshop. You can be part of that if you want to talk about how do we keep our Black essence in the digital world for our children's sake.
That's right.
Now, this is what I want to transition to before we leave. I see y'all squirming in your seats. So we have, I hope that there is a line in the back. I'm asking our staff to have 2 or 3 people ready to do sales. Because we want to sell all of our sister's books. We can't talk stuff while she's here, and then when she's not looking, we're not buying her books. We have to buy all of her books. We bought some for this event, and we only have, as I was told, 5 left.
Wow.
So if you didn't get your book before you sat down, you might not have a book. But because we're not letting that happen, and I hope, are you signing up for this? Are you signing books?
Yeah, she has to.
Oh, y'all gonna let me go home?
No, she's gonna sign.
We're hoping that our sister will sign books.
Yes.
After
I
you
heard y'all always do what my kidnappers tell me.
So that means after you buy a book up front, you can come back here and our sister will sign it for you. If you don't have, if you have not purchased a copy of her latest book, you'll be given one of these plates. She can sign this plate. You can pay for the book, order the book, and you can either have it shipped to your house or you can have it picked up here. And then take this with you, with her signature on it, and have her put whatever you like, I suppose it's between you and Laini. And then you can put this in your book as a sign plate. We also have books. She has poetry about Dr. Ben. We brought out Dr. Ben's books. Whoever she talked about, we try to bring those books up so you can see that we act as a breathing body here. We're working together to make some change tomorrow. So please buy your book. I'll let you go in just a second. Heidi's reminding me to talk about what he just said, which is the composer of Sankofa's soundtrack and Through the Door of No Return. He is doing something here twice a month. And next time is going to be July 19th at 8 o'clock. David White and Edge Theory, and you will really like this music. You think you're in some kind of concert hall. I have to say, Sankofa transforms into a beautiful, very beautiful space when David does his music. It's just lovely. And then that's on the 19th of July, and on the 20th of July, Ayaba Bay. Are any of you familiar with this sister? You know her? She
Ayaba
plays
Bay.
guitar. Yeah, Ayaba Bay.
We have her picture in the back.
She's doing a live performance on Saturday, July 20th.
She's our community's Nina Simone. That's the way I could describe her.
And then, of course, Gaza on My Mind is an ongoing event to make sure that we are raising money for WPFW on a regular basis. How often are we doing that?
Every other weekend.
Every other weekend is a fundraiser for Gaza on My Mind. So community artists, singers, musicians, poets, anybody who wants to perform, dancer can come to that night. We raise money that night, and that money goes to WPFW because I can't even imagine DC without WPFW. So we're working real hard to make this work for that. And I think that's it.
She's doing one last poem. Sister, you want to say something?
I just want to say something to you. Like, I retired in 22 from the New York City Department of Miseducation, and for more than 20 years, I showed your film, Sankofa, to my students, and we would talk about it, and they got it. So I just want to thank you for that film, because that is my most favorite film, and my students loved it. There was no redeeming white people. They knew, they got that. They saw the resistance, they saw the connection, and to every grade that I showed it, from 9th to 12th grade, they loved the film.
Thank you, my sister. I hug you without abusing your spirit. Thank you, my sister.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do the, since I booked her, she does what I say.
She's dreaming. Why are you dreaming?
Okay, Laini.
I'm also hard-headed. So there were so many things I wanted to read, but I'm serious. I know people can get tired, right? So that's why I kind of cut it off where it was, because I felt like I had just given up so many different kinds of information. But there were so many other things that I wanted to give up that I didn't. So Paul is gonna get his poem, But before Paul gives his poem, I'm gonna give you mine.
Whoa.
Called Not a Poet. Hey! I am not a poet. I'm a devout transcriber of spirits known and unknown. A recorder of freedom cries and freedom denied. I'm Black history's mouthpiece and rebellion's archivist. A black debater of the tragically effete. I am not a poet. I'm a licensed gun fresh out of rubber bullets, chock full of metaphors and similes. I'm a gargoyle overseeing the secret entrance to Black world. My thoughts are weapons of mass destruction. My words are drones searching for handkerchief heads. I am not a poet. I'm a midwife, trying to keep our wounds from moonlighting as tunes. A journey agent, bent on blazing a trail for souls that choose to throw down instead of singing the blues. I'm a pit bull, monitoring our narrative like the CIA does the USA. A butcher, cutting away at the fat so that we can finally get down to the lean. I am not a poet, full of obsolete pedantic terms and sentiments that don't know how to heal. I'm the real deal, and not a dark copy of a Pulitzer wannabe. I'm a pressure cooker about to blow the roof off this MF. A trained scorpion ninja, determined to sting to death anything that preys on us. I'm a poison dart, aimed at every white intention painted black. I'm not a poet, churning out gutless images of black smiles, being stomped by white scowls. I'm the Madame Defarge of black conspiracies, waiting for the chance to present my list of traitors to the board of who no longer needs to be here. I am an executioner, collecting the heads of colonizers to be exhibited in the International Museum of Who Did What to Whom. I am not a poet, selling cliches to the highest bidders, faking significance to appease death bringers. I am a literary key, unlocking brain cells that have never seen the sun. A saber-toothed tigress stalking grants and awards that don't include us. A steamroller about to turn cultural bandits into a forbidden street. I'm an unstoppable idea, brought into being by David Walker and Ella Baker. I got ashe for days. I am not a poet who encourages belief in empty promises or alliances with melanin deficient beings. I didn't come here to perform blowjobs or slow jobs. I am a detour sign, blocking the way back to Oz and its fake-ass Emerald City. I'm a mission impossible, a recruiter for Garvey's whirlwind and Harriet's promised land. I'm not a solicitor of, why can't we all just get along? And other self-effacing philosophies. I am a weaponized version of everything we need to get free. And I didn't come here to litter the world with poetry. I came to kill. This is Paul's poem. This is for Marshall Eddie Conway. With love, we release. As our hold on you weakens, we can feel the grasping fingertips of those on the other side wanting you. Our need to keep you is almost as strong as their need to install you. We are your entourage, and we have come to sing the rhythm and blues of your life, to wrap a lion's mane around your handsome face, to drape a panther's skin over your shoulders and an ankh over your heart. For you, there will be no rest in peace, but a beauteous reign in power. For 44 years of excruciating training was your initiation into Garvey's whirlwind. That's why the fingers from the other side are so anxious to touch you, embrace you, and pull you into the astral boot camp of ethereal justice. Forgive us for our resistance, for our reluctance to let go one of the finest examples of Black manhood that many of us have ever seen. Please pardon the selfishness in us that wants you to stay and stay and stay and continue to give of yourself all the way down to the fine granules of your being. As our hold on you weakens, we can feel the strength in the fingers grabbing from the other side. What do you call a man who is so much of a man that his very essence is demanded by those on both sides of time? What do you call a man who sacrifices his entire adult life on the altar of Black liberation? What do you call a man to whom being black and being a man were indivisible. You're calling Eddie Conway.
Thank you. Thank you, Laini Mataka, thank you.
Yes, we can do better than that, y'all. Let's Okay, if you'll bring your books up here, she can sign, while we still have a little energy left. Thank you all. Another one? I'll just move.
So Tito. Oh, I think this would be a good. I tried to say.
I call her later on. We got that. We got inside scoop.
Are there any more books? I know, right?
Yes,
Thank you. That's something special. And it's all good. Oh, we met. Thank you.
Should have grabbed it when I came in.
I know we been. No. I will. Love you. Love you back. Yeah.
This we don't mind, just get it done.
I've seen your children at my house in Dr. Parker. I spent 2 years with Mariana and Ghana.
Yeah. How are you?
Nice to find you. Mariana? Support the girls.
Okay.
So Mariana left us.
She's coming back.
Who's talking? I'm going. My son is there. I know. How much you talking? I know. I got that's 3 of us. That's 3 of us.
How you doing? I got most of them.
I wish I could hear.
Some of them basically and worse. It's good seeing you. All right.
This is not a second.
It's so much healthier. What is it? I got two.
I'm about to say. Yeah, yeah, right? Look, I'll meet you. I used to do it more. You need help? Yeah. Right back. Right back. Dedicate time. That's my sit down and make yourself. Get with Francine and that's Thursday. Y'all meeting at the Monterey. Yeah, for me, long time. But now, you see them lately? Yeah. They started back on time. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It takes a lot. No, yeah, and we have everybody do what's necessary. You know, we got visas, you got plane tickets, accommodation. Just having the resources. Yeah. Well, I'm tired of it. Then I've been up all day. And they gonna have a birthday or something like an isolation. Not even talk to parents, taking mom, yeah. And up, girl, you're almost done.
Yeah, I know. Yes, it's hard. I ain't no girl.
Just think of me really quiet. Like you. Quiet strip.
This is okay. Everything else about you. Yeah. Yeah, I do it up. I did that. I know everybody said that. I'm not sure.
Hey, Mom.
They said you was here. You needed me to sign something. Yes, how long you doing? A couple of months. I put the other one. I'm gonna go to the bathroom because my ride is outside. If you will sign they said you would sign a card. I ordered the book so that I can come later and people who wanted to physically take my book. Yeah, I ordered my book too. So I'll be looking for you to sign my book later. Spell his name. Here it is. O-S-H. I didn't realize my handwriting. And I do understand. He got so excited when I told him I was coming to see him. That's a strong guy. You know, we undercover revolutionaries. We're trying to keep our community. I'm over there in the church. Y'all gonna pray for me. Christians are the hardest people I've ever worked with. Thank you, my dear. Y'all love you. Blessings to you. We'll talk. Yes, absolutely. I need to. Oh, because we have a community day I want to talk to you about. If you're available, you gotta let us know your rates. We need that in our community. Christians are killing us. She didn't tell me. She didn't tell me either. She didn't slip up and said, oh, I had to go get my chemo. Like what? No, I know, I talked to her. I did with the school. Oh, good. Oh, she. I'm coming over one day next week.
don't come out. White
No matter
chocolate.
where you live,
It's white chocolate.
no matter where you live.
All I want to do is like self-respect. Like, look, I don't want to live in hell. I don't want to live in nobody but
You gonna love Crazy Head,
smoke the smart.
you gonna love Crazy Head. You gonna feel like you home. I wanna die, by the time I got back,
The cultural shopping when you come back.
yeah, but I was so designed. No, that's oh, that's the place right there.
Mama Karen, that's your book?
Okay, well,
Is
that's
it
not,
yours?
yes,
It's like,
no, but I
I love you.
Get back home. Y'all leave like that?
oh, no,
I know you got.
no, yeah,
I think it'll take too much longer. You don't want to get out the door, y'all.
Oh, okay.
that's where I was at. I know, right? Don't come inside. We used to teach class out back, the big backyard. Thank you, John. We got, can you take a picture of us? On my camera. For the record. Look, I need to turn, I'm dancing in that place today. Ain't nothing to say. Yes. Well, I mean, here's one.
Oh, you didn't know my number.
No, I didn't.
I'm only going by shopping. I just did a photo shoot with my grandmother. She's like 94. The whole family, we've been on Hobart Place for 70 years.
Hobart Place, but we used to live right there. Oh, no, we was on Queen Street. You know what, Jeannie was on there. Trinidad.
Yeah, I was over Trinidad, Montello and all that.
I know.
Why are you like this?
I don't know.
This is terrible, Mama Karen.
I got another one there.
Yeah, well, you need to take
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, just take one for me, please.
I don't know how to do it.
Give it to me.
Oh, wait, I'm looking at myself. Your Android? Oh, there we go. Now it's that. Yes, I'm only going by shopping.
We got tomorrow. We got so much going on.
I've been shopping good since I was 3 years old.
That's you, kid.
I used to rap all that stuff, but I'm doing, I just did my Dr. Ivy photo shoot. You know Dr. Ivy? Yeah. I just did a photo shoot.
Now, Bo, where'd you do it? She moved to Virginia or something.
She's here. She came back.
Well, you gotta make some money then. You better get your career right together.
No, this is, she lives in Virginia, but this is here. Yeah, she did. She did the first one.
Abby,
We
don't
did
say
the shot,
Abby.
and look at the crystal that came on her head. That's not post. That's just what we post. That's just what the camera put. I didn't do that in post.
That's like,
And it's crazy.
Go all the way and then go to your right, go straight down.
That's her favorite. That's her favorite. Crystal sitting right there. And I ain't making it. That just happened. Yeah. So yeah, we did that up in the fall. And this is what I want to show you.
don't let that negative go right there now.
I went over to somebody, I was like, that's so-and-so's son. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Mama Yow's son.
Oh, I'm sorry. God.
Mommy.
Just come
doing number two?
Don't feel like it.
Yeah, we're not gonna do it. Look, I got a better sound, and I'm gonna get a better.
Oh, right there.
You know,
Is this an Android? I'm starting to like Android though.
no, Samsung, that's 21.
I don't know nothing about them numbers. iPhone 1 through whatever we have. Always have.
My son got a 12.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I gotta, but it's you can't make your own SIM card.
Okay, this is the last one. Go ahead.
You know that. You know it's gonna come out.
Not enough storage. I got one shot. But the thing, when you was talking,
You got a phone, Mom?
That's it.
Yeah, I got a phone. It's right there beside. Okay, let's take that.
what I wanted to
I know
say,
you're gonna do a good job, I ain't gonna worry.
Well, my iPad,
I ain't got no choice.
I'm not gonna worry.
I cannot be here and talk on that talk. I'll back it up.
Hallelujah.
what I wanted to say when you said that was or stop giving them a cell phone when they're free.
Okay, no book, no book. Okay, one more problem with no
Yeah,
book.
that's what I was gonna say too. I was
Because they're giving them cell phones when they're 2 years old.
I'm saying, I'm not thinking in terms of.
No, I understood.
Craziness.
We gotta get on
Thinking
it.
in terms of.
We gotta get on it.
You know, in Europe, it's a place, I think it's in Finland, it's illegal for, if you're under 14, under 16 years old, you can't, it's illegal for you to have a cell phone. Because they did this, 400% decrease in cognitive ability.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, of
My
course.
kids are not gonna have no cell phones until at least they start to go out on their own, they make a few trips and things like that. And they do need some sort of communication. I'm telling you that, there's no cell phone. But I'm thinking in terms of.
You're right. You're right.
Future,
We need to be talking about that.
But we need both systems. Because they can shut that down.
We don't have to let this one go.
This is what, you don't have to let this one go. That's the
But
one.
I don't
Go
mind,
do the
I
other.
don't mind when I'm driving,
Yeah.
be able to.
Yeah, the audio book. Yeah, we need that audio. We need that audio book.
Thank you.
We need the audio book.
Oh, yeah,
That's
we're
what we're
doing that.
gonna do.
Summer Rufus.
We're gonna do the audio book.
Even more than that.
Rufus, what you doing for the summer?
No, I don't know if I ever get home. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. Let me.
Rufus,
So,
where's your camera? Where's your phone?
Go on.
I'm gonna do that as soon as I go back.
Do you get a picture of me? I was wondering if you had a phone, but that's all. Did I get a picture of you? Where's your phone? Where's your phone?
Africa.
That one.
Abby, I was looking for you. You get ready to go?
My mother is still alive. I have to come over one day this week to see my mother before I can be taken. So the day that I'm gonna come, have your number, and I'll tell you before that. Yeah, so we can see what you're trying.
So I just have something.
Just reminding you, my elders that was here, that's one step. When I pulled up and I saw all these cars, I thought it was for you. I thought it was for you. Sit down. It should be.
When I die, they'll know the purpose.
I mean, yeah, but no.
I knew you were something there.
Real nice shots of you too, Mom. I'm gonna get them to you. I see, before I was in Baltimore for a long time, it was hard to find people
I prefer this. I almost forgot that she looked like that.
This,
I got you.
I love her.
Such a
I love that. I love it. I love it.
Because I used to have lots.
Yeah, I wanna take one of them, take your picture, take it to, Tanzania, tell them to stop. Yeah, that whole time.
You gonna love it. You gonna be like, don't lift it up.
right in there. I used to live right on Elgin.
I've been living down
Right there.
They not gonna come back.
No,
I live right on Hilton and Elgin.
ain't no place to go.
I used to walk all
Nobody understands our experience.
You all, but I like to go with the people, you know.
With my own self, but yeah, my soul's out my own.
Sit down.
But yeah, I know.
But they ain't doing nothing with it.
And I'm getting ready to write a poem about it. It's called Indigenous. And I want to talk about how they started. Tony Brown will give you that girl. A melanin color. Just for the day. You know, I'd like to do that.
Because that's what's going on right now worldwide. They're not talking about this. All over the planet. Aryan nation. That's why my
I don't know what they were thinking. What were you thinking?
They were in Germany?
What was he thinking?
Berlin.
And when the kids were little, they called sheep. Once they got big, they started getting a little they started treating differently.
When the blackness started coming out.
Because she wasn't used to her kids.
Right.
She never expected.
Because white people don't expect white supremacy. Yeah, they don't know nothing about it.
That's what the brother that was incarcerated said of that older brother. He was saying when he was locked up, the way the white folks act was like, it was almost like, but I shouldn't even be here. Like, they could have done something way worse than what we did. The mentality is that, well, it's not supposed to happen. I'm supposed to do it on my own.
White men cannot live without entitlement. They're committing suicide in this day. That's what they plan on doing to their white women. I saw a piece of it.
Showing they need to strictly control their women in order to survive. Why any woman in a white man?
I did too, and I couldn't finish it off with it.
Unbelievable. But that's showing you how stringent.
They don't go after them. They don't go after them.
Everywhere you see this gentrification happen, because when the person that tours a lot, it's the same everywhere.
Whatever happens locally, it's happening globally.
And it never brings forth anything worth it. There's no creativity happening. It's like a copy and paste.
No pause.
Bullshit, no identity.
They don't never stop and take a break.
It's just constant bringing nothing. So they're taking all the culture we had here, it's just white folks come along with some mambo songs. I want to go, they want to take our stuff, novelize, make it novels.
Yeah, we don't own our music. We don't own our culture, they take it.
We don't.
That was the only problem I said when you said, when you said our schools, I was like, only thing is our schools. So we can't actually be in them. You gotta go to where they are. That's what this is.
You have to be there.
Yes.
And you can't sit on the side. Whoever's sitting there is making the move.
There is no white
And
people.
we're not period.
There is no white people that will allow their children to be educated in the way that they educate. There's no group. They wouldn't allow it.
Back in our generation, remember when geography was taught in school? They had taught geography in school for the last
They don't want you to know how few they are. You know the land, once they start teaching you where the land is, you gonna know what the people look like.
That's the first thing I do.
And they don't want you to know that. That's why I can keep you thinking Jesus, a man who born in Ethiopia, could somehow be born with blue eyes and white skin and survive. Because you don't have his name, they give up a letter and they don't even have I had to teach you because she tried to tell the students that he was in Africa. Why? Because she saw it in the movie. Are you writing? That's her base. Not a textbook, not some science.
You know what they're doing in Baltimore. Oh, yeah, right. Oh, my God. You don't even have to come to school anymore. In Baltimore, you don't have to come to school. The new thing they passed me, you can miss 3 full weeks. It's still gonna let you back and catch you up right now.
They take you to hit online.
Yeah. Some kids can't
They
read.
don't
They can't
teach you that. No, they don't. Person teacher who can explain it. Ooh.
How you get home?
You go with them. Remember, since I know what day I'm coming I will let you know. I'm here. I know I have to let the boss know where you are.
I'm here now. Oh, I'm here now. Yes. So that's what I left out. Okay, yeah, I'm here. I'm right uptown. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah,
Y'all be set.
my hood.
All right.
My hood. Right here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can do it.
Then we can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna talk.
Don't make me give you a date right now in my head. Well, you know, I got 1 week and then I'll be traveling. I ain't carrying nothing. And getting away people getting fussy.
I know. So that's why I want to talk to you before you go. Somebody's book and somebody's book. Let me make sure that might be my book.
Your book is signed. I don't think there's anything signed. I think that's
And with my friend, my coworker, my other school went to a talk and he was there. And like sitting in the classroom is like, it's the next generation.
I take classes. I didn't want to, I go to the bar, I'll get it right there.
What?